You know what would really let your family know that you loved the Thanksgiving feast this year? Well, puking it all up while you watch some disgusting Thanksgiving horror movies. So, if that sounds like your kind of thing, then I've got 4 movies to give you that will probably do the trick. All right, so the first movie is going to be Blood Rage from 1987. So in Blood Rage, a young boy kills someone at a drive-in and accuses his twin brother of the murder, and the innocent brother ends up institutionalized, while his psychotic twin goes free. Then, 10 years later, the innocent twin escapes, which triggers his brother into killing again. So the movie opens up feeling very all-American in a way. We're at a drive-in, it's 1974, people are drinking over there, young kids are hooking up over there, you know, they're doing all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden, this kid just murders somebody, and the movie wastes no time throwing us straight into some madness. The practical effects are good here, which is a lot of fun, but still, I'm just thinking to myself, what is happening with these kids? What is going on? And I'm kind of just like, whoa, okay, I just sat down, but all right, I'm ready now, so let's do this. And then we get this time jump to 1984, and not to spoil anything too much, but one of the brothers was basically institutionalized in a mental hospital and then escapes, of course. So we've got some things kind of inspired by Halloween here, without a doubt. But one of the scariest things in this movie, without question, is Terry and Todd's mom, who I swear could have been a Pamela Voorhees or something in another life. I mean, she's got like these big ass teeth, first of all, but like the smoker's voice on top of it, but just has this like horrifying smile throughout the movie, and a lot of moments like she's gonna snap really at any moment in the movie. And the entire time I'm thinking to myself, there is no way that this mom let the dad leave. That dude is chopped up and underneath a floorboard somewhere. And whatever is unhinged with this mom has clearly been passed down to at least one of these kids. And I'm thinking to myself while I'm watching the movie, okay, what is gonna set this dude off again? How is he gonna go crazy? Is it just the fact that that turkey looks pretty dry, which might set him off, could set off some people, or the fact that mom's got a new man? It could be any of those things, but I'm ready, and I'm definitely interested to see what's gonna do it. And some of the scenes in this movie are so gory that it's definitely gonna be hard to eat and watch this movie at the same time. But at the same time, it's also hilarious at some moments because someone will just get brutally murdered with these great effects. But at the same time, you can tell that this movie is so low budget and has so much 80s cheese to it that the actor is clearly still alive, of course, and you can see it. You can see him breathing, even moving a little bit. Like they're trying really, really, really hard to stay in character. And me, I'm watching it, I'm laughing, but at the same time, I'm like, damn, this is really damn gory, but also I'm laughing here because this is hilarious. And I'll just say there's this one moment that involves doorbell ditching, and it involves a prop head. By the way, the prop head actually looks really damn good for an 80s movie, but still, it's brutal at the same time, but also really damn funny. And that just kind of encapsulates some of the gore in this movie. And yeah, like you could have already guessed, I do think the mom is pretty damn scary, but there's this eeriness with the family that lingers throughout the rest of the movie. Clearly, one of the kids is obviously unhinged entirely, but still there's this lingering kind of like atmosphere with the family that just feels so weird and so creepy that kind of separates this movie a little bit just from your average slasher, because that aspect of the story is there and I think is effective and just makes the movie just a little bit more creepy. And also for the majority of this movie, we're at an apartment complex, which I think is a setting in horror that doesn't get used enough. And now I'm not talking about like a high-rise apartment in a city. I'm talking about like a suburban apartment complex, which is a setting that I can relate to. Definitely, I've lived in a lot of those, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to. I thought it was a cool setting and is pretty effective in this movie, and also makes you think, damn, these are the worst neighbors you could possibly imagine. These people are like playing tennis in the middle of the night, screaming and yelling and getting killed and just all kinds of craziness, having sex, partying. It's just like, shit, dude. Yes, I'm an old man, and yes, I need my sleep. So I'm just thinking to myself, this would be terrible. And now one gripe I do have with Blood Rage as far as Thanksgiving movies go, this movie, very different than a movie like Thanksgiving, which at its core is all about the holiday and the tropes of the holiday. This movie is kind of just a slasher, that happens to take place on Thanksgiving at the same time. But still, regardless, we do get some Thanksgiving stuff, Thanksgiving dinner, and some other things like that, which makes it feel like a Thanksgiving movie in a way. And yeah, with Blood Rage, if you're watching this video and you're a mom, I think this movie will hit you pretty hard. I mean, just a parent in general, because it's this idea of like, man, I really hope my kids or my kid does not grow up to be a little shit or somebody that does something crazy. You know, no, regardless of how you raise them, sometimes things just can go completely wrong. And this movie is definitely an example of a parent watching one of their kids come completely unhinged and kind of what that will do to you. And now, one of the beauties when it comes to Blood Rage is, especially towards the end of this movie, this veers way into the so bad it's good category. This movie at times towards the end especially starts to feel like something a college film student would make. The fighting, the acting, all of it is terrible, but it definitely, like I said, veers into that category so bad that it's good, that you will laugh your ass off. And yeah, in the end, Blood Rage is a movie that's definitely dark. It's eerie at times. It is without a doubt gonna make you feel uncomfortable here and there. It's got a lot of gore in it, so if you're enjoying some turkey and some mashed potatoes and stuff, it's gonna be a little bit hard to watch at times, but it has got a ton of just funny, low budget 80s cheese to it. So if you're into that kind of thing, especially with a little bit of Thanksgiving vibes thrown in, definitely put on Blood Rage this holiday. Black Friday from 2021 is going to be the next movie. The plot of Black Friday goes like this. On Thanksgiving night, a group of disgruntled toy store employees must protect each other from a horde of murderous parasite-infected shoppers on Black Friday. So Black Friday is a lot of fun. It's got a story that I enjoy. It's got characters that I want to follow, and it's just an overall good time. And right away, this movie definitely hooks me in. We've got these meteors hitting, and it's kind of something's taking over these people. What is this? Is it zombies? Is it aliens? Like, what's gonna happen here? And I find myself wanting to follow this story and see how it plays out throughout the rest of the movie. Also, this movie, like I kind of already mentioned a second ago, has a really fun cast. Surprisingly, the first time I watched this movie, which was this year, the cast is great. I mean, we've got Devon Sawa in this movie playing like this dad who kind of hasn't lived up to his potential in a way, drinks a lot, even drinks on the job. But yeah, big fan of Devon Sawa and everything that he's done, you know, over the years. A huge list of movies, not only in horror, but just in a ton of stuff in general. Also, I mean, we get Bruce Campbell back in Black Friday, almost like reprising his role at S-Mart in the Evil Dead franchise, if you remember that, which is great. But yeah, Bruce Campbell, come on, from the Evil Dead franchise, playing Ash, a legend in the genre, and plays the manager in this movie. I'm not going to spoil too much about his character, but yeah, he's really good in this movie and just a lot of fun. And there's also a lot of other characters in this movie that you'll recognize that aren't quite as famous as those two in any sort of way, but you'll recognize, you'll say, oh, I remember you from that, and you're actually pretty solid. You're not like an A-list actor or anyone that's going to like headline a movie, but you're a solid character actor, and they do a good job in this movie. And yeah, speaking of Evil Dead in Black Friday, we do get some Evil Dead vibes here a little bit. The creature design, it gets nasty, it gets juicy, it gets gory. There's stuff spitting out all over the place. So yeah, if you're a fan of Evil Dead, there's gonna be some things, I mean, not only the fact that Bruce Campbell's back, but there's gonna be some things with the gore and other things like that that's gonna remind you of Evil Dead. And one of the great things about Black Friday is if you have ever worked retail in your life, this is gonna be a story you can relate to. I mean, it's just like the shitty hours, how they can make you just feel like a statistic, having to work holidays, you know, having these managers that just seem like corporate drones, almost like AI. Like, who are you? Are you a real person? Plus, especially in those types of jobs, you meet these people at work and they act a certain way. Maybe they have a certain personality at work, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, is that just a facade? Are you really this way? Like, how are these people outside of work? And this movie kind of like peels that back a little bit, who these people really are, how they got to this point. They share their stories a little bit, which I think is great, because I'm sure if you've ever worked retail like I have, there's always a few people where you're like, that Bob guy, the guy who manages the electronics department, does he make lampshades out of dead cats in his free time? Because I would love to know, because it sure as hell seems like he probably does. And what's also great about this movie is it really does feel like it transports you into being a part of a team at like a Target or a Walmart or whatever, and what would happen and how you would kind of get through this type of a situation together if some big, like massive, crazy world event happen like this. Now, one thing this movie doesn't do so well is at times this movie oddly feels like it doesn't have enough extras. And I know I'm sure getting extras and that whole deal is probably a logistical nightmare, but still, there's moments where it's like, okay, this is supposed to be this crazy Black Friday experience, but there's really not even that many people, which makes it seem like when they're fighting over stuff and doing that whole thing, makes it seem less believable and a little less claustrophobic towards the end of the movie, a little less crazy and hectic, which always kind of felt weird. One thing, though, this movie isn't lacking, in my opinion, is with the gore. I already kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but the gore, definitely juicy. It gets nasty in this movie. There's some stakes here, and there's some good gore, in my opinion. I really enjoy it, which is something that kind of caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting that in this movie. So, yeah, if you're still munching on those mashed potatoes, it might be a little bit hard to watch at times. And yeah, I think the creature effects in this movie are good. Whoever the team members were behind the creature effects, the CGI blended with the practical effects, the gore and all of that, how they pulled it off, I think did a good job in this movie. There's this one moment, not to spoil anything too much, but there's like this naked grandma monster, juicy, nasty thing running around. Definitely not something you'd want to see on aisle 9 anytime soon. And yeah, not to spoil anything too much, but towards the end, we get this thing that's going to remind you of The Thing mixed with like Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters, maybe with a little King Kong thrown in there as well. But it's pretty hilarious and it looks pretty good and I have a good time with it. But one gripe I do have as well with this movie is, especially towards the end, you're like, guys, you can clearly run away. I know you're selling me on some reason why you can't get away, but I'm just not buying it. But yeah, Black Friday is just a fun Thanksgiving horror movie. Like I said, a surprisingly very solid cast, some fun gore, plenty of it in my opinion. And I think it's a movie you can also watch with a non-horror fan, especially if they've worked retail before. But yeah, just a really fun Thanksgiving horror movie because it's not only about the Thanksgiving dinner aspect of it, which they do trickle in a little bit, but it's more about kind of just like the American consumerism bullshit that we've incorporated with the holiday. So yeah, Black Friday, recommend watching it. It's a good time. All right, so up next is going to be Pilgrim from 2019. So in Pilgrim, a woman invites reenactors to produce an authentic first Thanksgiving for her family and friends. However, things take an unexpected turn when the actors refuse to break character. All right, so in Pilgrim, gratitude is definitely on the menu in this movie, and they mention that over and over and over. And just be prepared in this movie also to basically watch somebody be gaslit for almost the entirety of the movie. And this movie does have a lot of Thanksgiving stuff just in it in general, not like Black Friday stuff or football stuff or anything like that. It mainly focuses on just being grateful for what you have in front of you and like kind of what can happen if you don't. And yeah, a lot of things happen for people who perceive that you don't appreciate it. And honestly, also in this movie, if this was my stepmom, we would be cooking her ass for Thanksgiving. I mean, this mom hires these random people basically off of Facebook Marketplace, and then they end up having to live with the family for a few days instead of just taking care of the dinner. I mean, it's just a mess. Like like I said, we would be cooking her ass for Thanksgiving if that was my stepmom. And also the cast in this movie is actually pretty effective. There's not too many people that I recognize in this movie, but they're very effective. The people that play the Pilgrims come off as very creepy. I was surprised how good they were. They come across as people that you want to hate, people that you don't trust. You can feel like this underlying theme of there's something more to them. What's their motivation here? What's going on here? Are they going to do something crazy at the end? Or are they well-intentioned and maybe the family's going to do something crazy instead? They're going to push them to the brink. I don't know, but the actors I think are doing a good job. Also, our young girl who I think is like a senior in high school, I think she does a good job. I recognize her, but I don't know exactly what she's from, but she does a good job in this. The family also does a good job in this. Also, we get the jock from the original Final Destination. He's playing the dad in this movie as well. And he's kind of playing this dad who's like obsessed with his stock portfolio. So he's always looking at his iPad during dinner, basically any time that he can in order to, kind of like pay for the family, they say, right? But he plays that type of a character, clearly fitting into the whole like, you're not grateful, you just want more. And yeah, that whole plot line of like Americans who are like overstuffed and spoiled and don't appreciate anything, that's always going to be a plot line that you could definitely exploit in horror and make it pretty good. And also right away, if you've ever seen the movie What About Bob, this movie is going to remind you of that a little bit, because it's like, wait, there's only one person really here that's noticing that something is clearly off. What you're doing makes no sense. It's completely a stupid idea. Why are we doing this? But yet the rest of the family is kind of like, no, everything's fine. They seem nice. Everything seems chill. There's not going to be any problems here. And there's like only one sane person in the movie besides us. And you just want to like shake the TV and just tell these people, what the hell is wrong with you? Listen to her, please. And also, if you're a parent like I am, this movie at times will definitely make your blood boil. So that might be something that'll turn you off about the movie, or something that makes you invested, because there are moments where the parents just have no backbone at all. Like, what are you doing? Why are you not defending your family, your kids, the way that you're supposed to? It makes you want to jump into the screen, slap them both in the face, and be like, all right, let's add just a little bit of just common sense to this scene, because I'm going to fucking just handle this. Move aside. This is mine now. And yeah, I'm going to take care of this. Now, definitely one of my biggest gripes with this movie is, especially towards the end of the movie, you really do have to suspend your disbelief, because this family is basically like in this kind of, middle upper class suburban neighborhood. But anyways, they're surrounded by neighbors. It seems like they have neighbors all over the place. Neighbors are coming over to their house to hang out. But yet all of this crazy stuff is happening in their backyard, some of it in the front yard, just all over the house. But yet the cops haven't been called. Nobody really notices anything. The people in the HOA already knew that they were going to have these pilgrims over. So maybe that kind of would have, turned on their spidey senses a little bit. But it's kind of like, okay, I'm pretty sure the cops would have shown up a long time ago. And also, not to spoil anything, but this movie does share some similarities with a movie that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. There's a moment at the end of this movie that is definitely going to gross some people out. Maybe not on the same scale as the movie that I'm going to talk about in just a minute, but still, yeah, pretty damn gross. So yeah, Pilgrim is a slow build, but I think you'll enjoy the payoff at the end, where the movie just gets kicked up to a totally different level towards the end of the movie. This movie also has some fun, like Thanksgiving stuff in it, like I already mentioned. Some fun Thanksgiving tropes that they play into, which is different than some of the other Thanksgiving movies in the genre. It also does a pretty good job transporting you into this kind of well-off family's dynamic that's had some trauma, some things that go on, and how that affects and makes you kind of make some really dumb decisions along the way. But yeah, a fun Thanksgiving horror movie with some good villains, some good gore, some good Thanksgiving tropes, like I already mentioned. Yeah, just overall a good time, and a movie I think you should check out. All right, and the last movie that I want to mention, I couldn't talk about gross Thanksgiving horror movies without talking about Thanksgiving from 2023. And the plot of Thanksgiving goes like this. After a Black Friday riot ends in tragedy, a mysterious Thanksgiving-inspired killer terrorizes Plymouth, Massachusetts, the birthplace of the infamous holiday. So yeah, Thanksgiving. I mean, this is kind of like the bigger budget Thanksgiving slasher that a lot of people have wanted for a long time. This movie really plays off of the tropes of the holiday with everything. Turkey, Black Friday stuff, really just everything with the holiday, which is a lot of fun. I think Eli Roth does a really good job with that aspect of the movie. And the gore in this movie is crazy. I mean, you're going to see the insides of people, which is going to gross you out without a doubt. There's going to be a lot of moments where you do not want to be eating while you're watching this movie. You're going to see somebody get cooked in this movie, and then they're kind of like slowly carving little pieces off them, just like a Thanksgiving turkey would be. But also at the same time, the movie does a good job blending the humor with everything too, which I think is a lot of fun, and I think they do that really effectively. But on top of that, not only just the Thanksgiving feast stuff, like I already mentioned, there's also like a big Black Friday moment, which just, kind of shits on America and the whole consumerism aspect of it. How we'll basically do anything in this movie. It's all for like waffle irons that you get for free if you're the first 100 customers in the movie, which obviously is completely ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, there have been people in the past who have died from the stupidity that is Black Friday. Fortunately, that is kind of just going online, and the ridiculousness of camping outside of like a Best Buy has kind of gone away a little bit. But yeah, there's going to be some things in this movie that's clearly inspired by Scream, not only the whodunit aspect, but just other moments of the movie. I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, I don't think this movie's on the level of those. It's not as iconic as those movies, of course. I don't enjoy this movie as much as those, even though I do enjoy this movie. But now, a gripe that I do have with this movie, and a lot of Eli Roth movies just in general, is the script. I mean, it's going to be like not that great of a script. There's going to be a lot of things in here that are going to feel like frat boy humor, ridiculous throwaway characters that you don't really care about. I mean, that's one of the things that makes like the original Scream so iconic, is that the young characters were like so charismatic and characters that you genuinely wanted to find out more information about. Whereas in this movie, that is a gripe. However, though, Patrick Dempsey is great in this movie. Tim Dillon, we only get him for a little bit, but he's also great in this movie. So there are some good characters in this movie. But overall, I mean, Thanksgiving is just a lot of fun. Like I already mentioned, it really plays into the holiday tropes. There's a lot of moments with some great cat and mouse moments that are tense that I think are pulled off well. There's a lot of variety of weapons and stuff like that. I think the killer looks awesome. This John Carver character, they were trying to come up with an iconic idea for a future killer that could maybe spawn a franchise. There's going to be a second Thanksgiving movie. So yeah, I think that's a lot of fun. And for me, it's just a fun slasher with great kills. It's brutal, but it's also funny at the same time. And for me, I'll always be a sucker for a whodunit slasher with some good gore. But yeah, Thanksgiving's a movie. If you haven't seen it, I definitely think you should check out. And there's going to be a lot of moments in Thanksgiving that I do think will definitely gross you the hell out. But yeah, everybody, those are some disgusting Thanksgiving horror movies that you can watch this year. Thanks so much for watching. If you want some more content from me right now, go ahead and check out one of these videos next to me. If you don't want to miss future content, the best way to do that is to make sure you subscribe. But my name is Matt. Thanks again for watching, and I will talk to you in the next one.